I've come here today to give you some fun tips and hints about using Total Quilter. Today we're going to use it to make a placemat for your pet. So we're going to show you some quick and easy ways to make those blocks, make them accurate, and make them easy. So let's talk about Total Quilter. Before we go there, I want to show you a picture. These are the fabrics I chose to make my placemat. And as I took photos of them with my camera, you know, it labels them with the crazy number for their information. Well, I just took each picture that I downloaded with my camera. I right-click and rename it with the color of the fabric. So the color of this fabric I decided was tan, and this had a lot of rust in it. This had brown, pink, and black background. And the reason I do that is for when I use it in my Total Quilter, I can take the areas in the block and designate that fabric to that area. So just a tip, when you want to use your pictures of fabric so you know what area they're going in on your block, take little tiny photos of them and label them with the color that they are. And you'll see in a second how that works. So let's open our Total Quilter software. Alright, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to make an Applique quilt block. An Applique quilt block is all embroidered in the hoop. So the first thing we need to do is get a block. Any of the purple icons up in this left corner of the screen are all associated with Applique quilt techniques. What we're going to do is we're going to select this first one in the toolbar, click here, and it will open a menu of hundreds of artwork blocks for me to pick from. So we could spend all day just playing with the blocks, but we're going to select a basic block, and we're going to select block 31. Good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the size. So this pet placemat ended up being 12 by 22. So I used 4 blocks, making them each 6 inches wide and 11 inches long. So let's transform this artwork block to the proper size. And I'm going to uncheck maintain aspect ratio. So I'm going to make the width 11 and the height 6. And click apply. And give it a second. There's my block. That's the right size for what we're doing. The next thing I wanted to do, remember the squares of fabric I had pictures of? These are the fabrics I'm going to use in the block. And when I'm cutting the pieces, I want to know that this piece is for that area. So what I do, I change the color here to correspond with the fabric I'm using. So to do that, and this is an important thing to know, this little icon right here, Applique Quilt Object Selection. You can click until you're blue in the face and nothing will happen here. Believe me, I know this, I've done it. To select individual areas or objects in the block, you need to click here first. So click here, and now I can select individual areas. So this first area here, I decided that I wanted it to be my black fabric. But the stitching in this block is designated as black, so I kind of made it a gray, a dark gray color. So I'll slide along our color bar here and change it to maybe this gray. And we indicate that the fabric color is going to be gray. And there we go. This next section here was pink. I picked the pink. So let's go clear to the end. The pink's clear on the far left end of our color bar. And pick it was kind of a darkish pink. Click fabric color. This I decided I wanted to be tan. So let's go find our tan. It's about right here somewhere. And let's see. Oh, this one looks good. And this I decided I wanted to be tan, so I can select it And this one also, this tiny one down here is tan too, so I'm going to touch Control and grab them both, and since I already have tan in my color bar, I can just click here and fabric color tan. Alright, this stripe I wanted to be the fabric that had the majority rust. It was actually kind of a printed fabric that had little squares on it, but the majority was rust. So I'm going to pick, let's say this one here. Fabric color. This one also. Rust. And these two are brown, so click on it, touch Control on your keyboard, grab them both, and let's find a brown. And here we go. Here's some brown. How about we do this one? They don't have to be exact colors. It's just kind of my way of understanding and remembering where I put my different fabrics. So the next thing I want to play around with are the stitches in the block. So if I select right on the middle of that line there, whoops, it's hard sometimes. Let's zoom in on it. Let's make sure we have our selection tool active. Click right in the middle there. Oh, come on. Be nice to me. It's selected. Okay. Oh, it did select the stitches. Sorry. Yes, it was selected the whole time. Hello. Alright, so what opens once I've got my stitches selected, what opens is the properties box for all of my stitching options. I've got lots of options. Single run, double run, no fun at all. We've got motif stitches, and that's just kind of a short word for decorative stitches. So you can pick a motif stitch, click apply, and see what that looks like. Alright, beautiful. Now, let's explain first of all how Applique works. What I do is when I save a file out of my Applique block menu, it saves three things for me. It saves a placement line that I stitch on a piece of mesh. It's just an outline. It saves artwork files for me to cut out, and it saves a stitch file of decorative stitches for me to stitch. So in actuality, I lay these pieces on top, right, butt them next to each other, and these stitches join the two pieces. So my decorative stitches need to be somewhat wide, so I would probably change the size of this stitch to maybe 7 to make it a little bit wider, and click apply. There we go. That's a little bit wider, so it will hold the two pieces of fabric together. And I could carry on and play with the other stitches as well. Let me zoom out. Whoop, zoom out. And I've got Applique quilt binding motifs I can pick from. These are even fancier stitches. Click maybe that one, and click apply. And there's a decorative stitch there. And let's select this one. This one I did a fun thing with. I'm going to select Crazy Quilting. And let's click this drop down menu and go clear down to the bottom. And I picked, let's see, which one did I pick? Was it Crazy Quilting? Oh yes, it was this one right here. Okay, and it was 15 millimeters wide. That's really wide. I made it, I believe, 8 millimeters wide, and click apply. And let's zoom in on it. Okay, so it looks kind of like a feather stitch of sorts. So let me click my selection tool, select it again, and we can do a fun thing with all of our stitches. I can change the horizontal and the vertical arrangement of each stitch. So if I click alternate on horizontal and I click alternate on vertical, it's going to flip each stitch alternately horizontally and vertical. So click apply, And there you see, we've got a totally different look to that stitch. How cool is that? So we can play with all of these stitches and flip them, move them around, change their size. I can change the density. Let me select it again. Let's say I want my stitches to be closer together. You can actually change the numbers in this box to minus numbers. So I'm going to say -3, and click apply. And look how much closer they are together. I like that better. It's going to hold these two pieces together nicer. Okay, zoom back out. Great. So, what I suggest doing is I suggest putting on your screen a picture of the entire placemat. So I want all 4 blocks on my screen. So I'm going to select, and this time we're going to use this selection tool because I'm not selecting individual objects of the block. I want the entire block selected. So click all items. And let's move it down and over here. Oh, by the way, to zoom in and out of your screen, you can roll the roller tool on your mouse. So we're going to copy it and paste it. And we're going to mirror it end to end, or yeah, that way. Side to side. There we go. Let's copy it, paste it, mirror it end to end. Copy it, paste it, and mirror it side to side. Actually mirror top to bottom, that's probably a better way to say it. And there we go. There's our entire block on our screen, or our entire placemat on the screen. Good. Alright, so the reason I'm doing this is because I'm saving you from what happened to me. You know, it looked all good on my screen just to do 4 of the same block, but that did not work because these blocks are the opposite of each other. So, for instance, this block here, and if I take this block here and rotate it 90 degrees, it's the exact same block as this. They're the exact same block. So I can stitch this in my hoop and just rotate it and put it in the right place. But this is not the same block. No matter what I do to rotate it, it doesn't end up the same way. Okay? So, I suggest putting all the same blocks on your screen, so, not all the same, but painting the picture on your screen so you know what it will turn out like when you cut the pieces out and when you stitch it out. So, in actuality, this is the same as this, so I don't need those 2 to stitch. I just need 1, and I'll stitch 2 of these, and I'll stitch 2 of these. Delete that. So this, stitch 2, this stitch 2, and I have enough for 4 blocks for my placemat. So let's copy this. New page, paste. I'll save this file, go back to this tab, delete that, and then I'll save this file. And I'll have the perfect pieces cut and the perfect stitching for each block. Alright, so the next thing that happens, I need to select it all, and I select this icon here, Export Applique Block. Now you'll want to go up here. We're used to going up here, File, Save As. We need to export our Applique block because we need to export artwork and stitches together. So click here, and it opens this dialog box. So in this dialog box, I'm going to change my project name to Placemat. Placemat 1. Remember, we've got 2 blocks, different blocks to do. I'm going to put it in a folder wherever I choose. I'm going to leave it on my desktop. This is important for this project. We are not going to piece these with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. we're going to butt them together and stitch them across to connect each other. So I took out my seam allowance. I don't need that. I do want to export stitch files to stitch this. I do want cut files to cut with my digital cutter. My digital cutter speaks SVG. Alright, so if I don't have a digital cutter, instead I can click down here for manual cutting and unclick cut files. Click preview, and then I would print these files. Okay, and these files would be what oh, you know what? I do need to click cut files. What was I thinking? I do want cut files clicked, sorry. Click cut files for manual cutting, click preview, and there we go. We've got all the files I need to manually cut out my different pieces. Okay, let's click close. Now you can decide if you want to click, if you want to print out, let's go back to the beginning here, print out the entire block, or if you want to print out the color order. I don't print this out because it's only one color, so I'm not worried about that. Then I close, I would print and close. Alright, and for this, we're going to export. We're not going to do manual cutting, so we're going to unclick export. Oh, well, it did it. I don't know why it gave me that message. Alright, so Placemat 1, here are my cut files, and here's my stitch file. And what I did at this point was, just to make sure I'm putting the right pieces in the right place, I renamed the files. This is the pink section, so I named it pink. Let's see, gunmetal gray was the black center section, so left click, right click, rename, and I'm going to name that black. Alright, and these other sections, I'm not quite sure what they are, so let's open it up. Okay, that's the brown section. Close that. Rename it brown. Let's see what section this one is. Oh, that's the rust. Rename it rust. Oops, and this last is the tan. Left click on it, right click, go down to rename, and rename it tan. Good. So there's the different colors that correspond. Remember my picture of fabrics? Tan, rust, brown, pink, black. Perfect. Okay, back to our quilter select. Okay, so let's see that file it created. Let's minimize this, Got a lot of things open here. Okay, here's the file it created. That's back to where we were. So here's all my SVG files for cutting and my stitch file. So at this point I would put these on my USB stick, plug them into my cutter, and cut the pieces that I need. Now remember, we need 2 of this block cut and 2 of the other block cut. So you would put this on in your digital cutter and put 2 on your screen, and do not, let me repeat, do not mirror or rotate it. It won't cut the right direction at that point if you do that. Alright? So that's how that works. Let's open our software back up. Remember, we've got the 2 blocks. We'd have to save this one. Remember, export Applique Quilt block, and we did this one already, and we'd be good to go. So let's watch this stitch out. Oops, I gotta select it all. Oh, you know what? It's not going to stitch right here because I didn't export it. So let's open the file that has it in it and watch that stitch. Okay, so let's right click this. No, actually we'll have to open it from here. So that's on the desktop, Placemat 1. Let's open it in our software. Desktop, Placemat 1. Here it is. Double click on that. There we go. Now let's watch this stitch. So the first thing it does is it does an outline. The next thing it does is stitch placement lines. And you'll notice there are different color changes here. Of course you're just going to stitch it all in one, but they put those color stops in there so it will stop. Let's see, let's stop it here. Back it up a little bit. So it would stop after color 1. Oh, a few more stitches. You get the idea. It would stop after color 1. You take your cut pieces and place them on in the placement lines. Oh, and I forgot to mention, by the way, before you cut your pieces, you must put Applique on the back of them. Actually, no, for this project I put no, yeah, that's right, I put Applique on the back of them. Okay? So you fuse the Applique to the fabric, then put it on your mat, and then cut them out. If you don't, the fabric will shift all over your mat. Ask me how I know. So cut them out with the Applique. You'll peel the paper off the Applique, stick them in the individual sections, have them all stuck down, and then continue your stitching. So then it will do the decorative stitching to join the pieces. Good? Beautiful. Yay! Alright, well, thank you for joining me today. Additional instructions are available on the project sheet. So happy stitching and make a fun placemat.